Last night we talked about one of the verses of Quran in which Allah Ta'ala says that one of the attributes of muttaqeen, the pious people, is that الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. They believe in the ghaib, the unseen. And we mentioned that the ghaib, according to Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, is the Imam Mahdi Ajjallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. And the muttaqeen are described by Allah as those who believe in Imam Mahdi. And we say that, Allah is not asking us to put our intellect aside and believe in some, superficial, something imaginary, just because Allah says so. No, we have to have proof and daleel and reasoning why we believe in our 12th Imam, which is hidden and not seen. And we talked about, his age and the hadith that I mentioned, that from Hisham the Hakam, in which he proved that the same way that our body needs an Imam to function, the universe also needs an Imam to function. Now there are many verses about Imam Mahdi in the Quran. Another verse in the Quran, Allah says, وَنُرِيدُ أَن نَمُنَّ عَلَى الَّذِينَ اسْتُضْعِفُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَنَجْعَلَهُمْ أَئِمَّةً وَنَجْعَلَهُمُ الْوَارِثِينَ. Allah says, we intended to show favor to those who were abased, those who were disgraced, mustad'af, and oppressed in the land, and to make them the imams, and to make them the inheritors. Now, who are those who are disgraced and mustad'af and oppressed in the land? That Allah says, I want to make them, I have intended to make them the imams. The Shias have mentioned who they are, but I'm going to read you a hadith from Alim Haskani, one of the Sunni scholars. He mentions in his book that from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, that one day the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam نظر إلى علي والحسن والحسين وقال أنتم المستضعفون بعدي. The Holy Prophet one day looked at Imam Ali, Hassan and Hussein alayhi salam and said, you are the mustad'afun, you are the oppressed people after me. The narrator asked Imam Sadiq, Ya Rasulullah, why are they the oppressed ones, the mustad'afun? Why are they the mustad'afun? And what is its meaning? Imam said, مَعْنَا أَنَّكُمُ الْأَئِمَّةُ بَعْدِي. The meaning of that is that you are the imams after me, because Quran says, وَنَرِيدُ أَن نَمُنَّ عَلَى الَّذِينَ اسْتُضْعِفُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَنَجْعَلَهُمْ أَئِمَّةً. Those who are disgraced and oppressed, Allah has made them the imams. And when Allah says, when the whole Prophet says, you are the mustad'afun, you are the disgraced people, that is what it means. Imam says, وَهَذِهِ الْآيَةِ فِينَا جَارِيَةٌ إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ. And this ayah is about us and every one of us until the day of judgment. So today, al-mustad'af is Imam al-Mahdi, Ajjallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, who Allah Ta'ala, he's the oppressed one. But the first person who was oppressed amongst these a'immah, as Quran calls them, was Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi. And especially today was the 21st of month of Ramadhan, the martyrdom of Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi. And we always hear about him being oppressed. How was he oppressed? And how much was Amir al-Mu'mineen oppressed? You see, brothers and sisters, Amir al-Mu'mineen, every lecture in Kufa, he always said, مَا زِلْتُ مَظْلُومًا. مَا زِلْتُ مَظْلُومًا. Imam could have talked about any other topic, but always he mentioned, I have always been oppressed. In one of the ziyarat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, we say, Assalamu alayka ya wali Allah. Anta awwal mazlumin, wa awwal man ghusba haqqo. Ya Ali, you are Waliullah. You are the first one who was oppressed, and the first person whose right was usurped. You see, in Islam, brothers and sisters, inshallah sisters are also listening. Let's have a loud salawat from the sisters' side. Good. Okay. That's a good sign. Thank you very much. In Islam, if someone takes your property, for example, right? And you want to prove that it is yours, you go to the court. You only need 2 witnesses. If you bring two shahid adil, two just witnesses, the judge will, give the hukm in favor of you and give you your property. With only two witnesses. Amir al-Mu'minin salawatullah wa salamu alayhi had 120,000 witnesses on the day of Ghadir that he is the successor of the Holy Prophet. And still he could not take his right back. Just think about it. You have property and someone comes and takes it. Right? If there was no one there who could see and know that this is yours, it would be very difficult for you to prove it. But if you had 1 million people, watching, this is yours, and still you cannot take it back, it's much more difficult on you. مَا زِلْتُ مَظْلُومًا أَمِيرُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ always said. After the Holy Prophet, we know that what happened to Amir al-Mu'minin. But unfortunately, there is a very big misunderstanding about Amir al-Mu'minin and his actions after the Holy Prophet. Amongst us Shias. And we hear this a lot from the Shias that, Amir al-Mu'minin, he wanted to unite the Muslims, and that's why he kept quiet and did not fight back against those who were taking his Khilafah. He wanted unity, wahda, amongst the Muslims. But brothers and sisters, this is not right. Amir al-Mu'minin never said that I want unity, and for the sake of unity, it's Amir al-Mu'minin and Abi Bakr. It is Nur on one side and Dhulma on the other side. Light and darkness can never be united. Unity should be around haqq, not batil. When the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam in Mecca started his mission and preaching Islam and talking against the idols, the mushrikeen of Mecca, they came to Abu Talib and said, Ya Abu Talib, tell Muhammad that yakuffu anna wa nakuffu an. If he stops talking against us and our idols, we will stop torturing him. We will stop, bothering him. You know how much Muslims were tortured and bothered at the beginning of Islam. The mushrikeen came to Abu Talib and said that, tell Muhammad to stop talking against our gods and let us be united. They say to Abu Talib, إلا أن هذه الدعوة قد باعدت بين القلوب وأنبلت البغضاء. He brought division and disunity amongst us. They said before Muhammad we were all united. Yes, we were all united under the idols. The belief that there is, that the idols should be worshipped. We were all united. And now Muhammad has come and he has brought division amongst us. And now there's tafraqa and division amongst the people of Mecca. Tell him to stop this. Did Prophet stop? No. Because we cannot compromise on haqq and batil. Right? There's haqq and you follow that. You cannot, for the sake of batil, you cannot say, let's just unite, Prophet stood strong on his path and said that no, I will curse the idols. These idols are not to be worshipped. They put them aside and you have to only worship Allah Ta'ala. And that has a very important lesson for us, especially my younger friends who are going to public school. Right? Be strong. You see people who believe in in batil, in something that is not right. Buddhists, they have their idol, hanging from their neck. The Hindus, they have their signs, and they're proud of what they are. The Christians, they have their cross, the cross. The Jews, they have their the hats. I don't know what it's called. Yeah. So all these different religions, they're all proud of who they are. But when it comes to us Shias, we are even afraid to call ourselves Shia. What is your religion? I'm from Middle East and inshallah Muslim. Alhamdulillah, I'm Shi'at of Amir al-Mu'minin salawatullah wa salamu alayhi. What's wrong with that? Those who are on the wrong path, they are proud of who they are and what they are, and you are on the right path, you are ashamed of being on the right path. Be proud of who you are. This is the lesson that we take from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, that he never backed down from his position, even if he was in that situation of getting killed. The same thing about Amirul Mu'mineen after Rasulullah. If he, brothers and sisters, why did Amirul Mu'mineen did not fight and was oppressed? Because if he had fought back against them, he would have been killed. Not only him, but also Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein would have been killed. All the lovers who were around him, few lovers of Imam Ali, would have been killed. There would be no way for the guidance to guide the next generation. Sulaim narrates in a hadith that قال عمر قم يا ابن أبي طالب. Listen how much Amirul Mu'mineen was oppressed. Umar came and said, يا ابن أبي طالب, get up, فبايع, and pledge to Abu Bakr. قال فإن لم أفعل قال إذن والله نضرب عنقك. Umar said to Amirul Mu'mineen that if you don't give your pledge to Abu Bakr, we will cut off your heads. They put Amirul Mu'mineen at this position. This is not a position that Amirul Mu'mineen would come and say, okay, let me unite with you. No. They put Amirul Mu'mineen in such a position that they were about to kill Mulana Amirul Mu'mineen salawatullah alayhi. Amirul Mu'mineen, who was always honored and respected by the Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Amirul Mu'mineen, who was the brave warrior of the battle of all the battles. Especially you've heard about the battle of Uhud, when the Muslims, they went to take the spoils of war, and they left the Prophet alone in his tent. Amirul Mu'mineen was the only one who stayed in the tent. And when the mushrikeen attacked Rasulullah from the back of that mountain, Amirul Mu'mineen was the one who was wounded, but defended and supported Rasulullah. And if it wasn't because of him, Rasulullah would have been killed. In all the battles, he was the warrior. He was the brave man who saved Islam. In the battle of Khaybar, you've heard that on the first day, Abu Bakr and his army went. Marhab came out. They all ran away without even fighting. The second day, Umar went with his army. They just saw Marhab. Marhab was so strong that his helmet was made out of stone. They saw Marhab, they ran away. Third day, Uthman, same thing. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that tomorrow I will give the raya, the flag of Islam, to the person يحب الله ورسوله ويحبه الله ورسوله. I will give the raya, the flag, to the person who is loved by Allah and His Prophet and loves Allah and Prophet. Tomorrow, Prophet called Ali, Ya Ali, come. Amirul Mu'mineen came. He said, I have pain in my eyes. Prophet puts his hands over his eyes. He's cured. And he goes to fight Marhab all by himself without an army. With one stroke, the helmet and the body cuts into half. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And the gate of the castle of Khaybar was so heavy that it needed at least 20 people to lift it up. Amirul Mu'mineen goes all by himself, lifts it up. There was a trench around the castle. He goes and lifts up the gate and holds it on his head with his hands, and the army walks over that gate. And Amirul Mu'mineen salawatullah alayhi, after that, he throws the gate over in the air. This is the power of Amirul Mu'mineen salawatullah alayhi. Now, after Rasulullah has been disgraced, this brave warrior of Allah and Islam is being oppressed to the point that when they were dragging him from his house to masjid to make pledge with Abu Bakr, he looked at the grave of the Holy Prophet and said, Ya ibn inna al-qawma istad'afuni wa kadu yaqtuluni. He said, these people were about to they disgraced me and they were about to kill me. This is an ayah from Quran. When Prophet Musa came back from the mountains, he got very angry when he saw his people worshipping the idol, the calf. He came to Harun and complained to Harun, Harun, why did you let them to deviate? He said, يَبْنَ إِنَّ الْقَوْمَ اسْتَضْعَفُونِي وَكَادُوا يَقْتُلُونَنِي. Amir al-Mu'minin said the same thing. It means that, O son of my mother, إِنَّ الْقَوْمَ اسْتَضْعَفُونِي, they disgraced me. They oppressed me and they were about to kill me. And I saved my life. Ya Ali. Quran says, وَنُرِيدُ أَن نَمُنَّ عَلَى الَّذِينَ اسْتُضْعِفُوا. We want these oppressed people to be imam. وَنَجْعَلَهُمْ أَئِمَّةً. We want them to be the imams thereafter. You know, you might ask here that, why, Sheikh? You know, you talk about the bravery of Amir al-Mu'minin, how brave he was. And at the same time, you say that after the Holy Prophet, he stayed quiet and did not fight back. Why? What was the reason for that? And even when they took Amir al-Mu'minin to make pledge, Amir al-Mu'minin did not open up his fist. And they, touched his hand, the hand of Amir al-Mu'minin to the, hand of Abu Bakr, and they said, okay, pledge is done. But obviously, that wasn't a pledge from Amir al-Mu'minin. Number one was forcefully taken to the masjid. And number two, his hand was not open because that's the pledge, not this. Why? Why did Amir al-Mu'minin not fight back against those oppressors? Amir al-Mu'minin answered that question himself. When he was in Masjid of Kufa, as I said, when he started his government, he moved from Medina to Kufa. In Kufa, he used to offer his lectures, his khutbah. In every khutbah, he used to say, مَا زِلْتُ مَظْلُومًا أَيُّهَا النَّاسِ مَا زِلْتُ مَظْلُومًا. I've always been oppressed. One day, Ash'ath ibn Qais, he got up and complained to Amir al-Mu'minin and said, Ya Ali, Ya ibn Abi Talib, فَمَا يَمْنَعُكَ أَن تُقَاتِلَ وَتَضْرِبَ بِسَيْفِكَ. What was the reason that you didn't get up and fight back and kill those who took your right and killed your wife Fatima Zahra? Every day since you've come to Iraq, إِلَّا وَقَدْ قُلْتَ فِيهَا قَبْلَ أَن تُنَزِّلَ عَن مِنْبَرِكَ وَاللَّهُ مَا زِلْتُ مَظْلُومًا. Every time you go on minbar, before coming down, you tell us that you are mazlum. Why do you complain to us? You had your sword. You were the brave man of Islam. You could have taken your right back. Amir al-Mu'minin salawatullah wa salamu alayhi answered this question and said that Ash'ath lam yamna'ni min dhalika al-jubn. I was not afraid. I was not afraid of being killed in the path of Allah tabarak wa ta'ala. ولكن منعني من ذلك أمر من رسول الله وعهده إليه. It was a pledge that I had done, that I had made to the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Prophet took a pledge from me. Ali, if you find followers, sincere supporters, mukhlisin, then fight against them. إن وجدت عوانا جاهدهم وإن لم تجد أعوانا فاكفف يدك. Prophet had told me, had took pledge from me that Ali, if you find supporters, fight. If not, then do not fight against them. Stay quiet and save the life. وأن تكف يدك وتحقن دمك ودم أهل بيتك والشيعة. The Holy Prophet had told me that I have to stay quiet if I don't find supporters to save my life and the life of my Ahl al-Bayt, Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein. Because they had no shame in coming and killing me. And that was their plan, to come and kill Amir al-Mu'minin. When they came and were surprised to see Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha behind the door. That was their plan. Prophet had told me that Ali, you have to stay quiet so that Hassan and Hussein would be saved. They are the Imams after you. They have to be saved. Otherwise they would kill them. There's another hadith. There are several narrations that talks about the sealed letters from Allah that Jibreel brought to the Holy Prophet and said, Ya Rasulullah, these are the sealed letters. Each letter belongs to each Imam. And each Imam, when he starts his Imam, has to open his letter and see what Allah tells him to do. Jibreel one day came to Rasulullah and said, Ya Rasulullah, tell Ali that what Allah wants him to do after you is to be quiet and not fight back. Rasulullah told Ali, Ya Ali, Jibreel has asked me, that this is a pledge that you need to make. You are Khalifa, Inta Khalifa, Wasi, but you have to make pledge that you do not fight. He said, I agree, and whatever Allah asks me to do, I'll do that. Jibreel emphasized. He said, Ya Rasulullah, tell Ali that not only you have to be quiet, you have to be quiet to the point that even if they kill and disrespect your wife, Fatima Zahra, salamullah alayha, you should not fight back. فَغُشِّيَ عَلَيْهِ. Amir al-Mu'minin fainted. He just heard that his wife would be disrespected after Rasulullah. He just fainted. And when he got up, he said, yes, Ya Rasulullah, I pledge. Whatever Allah wants me to do, I'll do that. So Amir al-Mu'minin was oppressed. وَنُرِيدُ أَن نَمُنَّ عَلَى الَّذِينَ اسْتُضْعِفُوا. By the enemies, and not only by the enemies, also by his friends, by those people who were around him. We heard the hadith that after the Prophet irtadda al-nas, most people became murtad except few. Even those few people were there fully loyal to Amir al-Mu'mineen. Allahu Akbar. There's a hadith in the Kitab al-Hidayat al-Kubra. When I read this hadith, I'm ashamed of myself. If this is what they did, Salman and Miqdad and Abid and those people, how about me? The hadith says that after Rasulullah, when the Saqifa happened and the Amir al-Mu'minin was oppressed, the loyal friends of Amir al-Mu'minin, they came to him and said, Ya Ali, there were Salman, Miqdad, Abi Dhar, Ammar, Hudhayfa, Khuzaymat ibn Thabit, and Abu al-Haytham. These 8 people, they came to Ali and said that, Ya Ali, نحن لك الشيعة, we are your Shias. ومن قال بنا شيعة لك مصدقون الله في طاعتك فقال لهم حسبي بكم قال وما تأمرنا. These 8 people came to Amir al-Mu'minin and said, Ya Ali, we are your Shias. Who narrates this hadith? Imam Hassan alayhi salam. When they came to Amir al-Mu'minin, to Imam Hassan alayhi salam, after the bay'ah that he did with Muawiyah, and they said, Assalamu alayka ya mudhilla al-mu'mineen, Imam Hassan alayhi salam said that if I had 1,000 followers, no, if I had 100 followers, no, if I had only 7 followers, 7 supporters, I would have not done this bay'ah. 7. Imam Hassan, وَنُرِيدُ أَن نَمُنَّ عَلَى الَّذِينَ اسْتُضْعِفُوا. He does not even have 7 supporters. Then Imam Hassan narrated this hadith. He said, after Rasulullah, these 8 people, Salman, Miqdad, Abu Dhar, Ammar, they came to Amir al-Mu'minin and said, we are your Shia. Why are you sitting at home? We are here to defend you. قالوا وما تأمرنا قال إذا كان غدا فاحلقوا رؤوسكم وأشهروا سيوفكم وضعوها على عواتقكم وبكروا إلي. Amir al-Mu'minin said, you're my Shia, you want to defend me? Amir al-Mu'minin was willing to fight back against Abu Bakr and Umar with only these 8 people. He said, fine, I will do that. Just 8. What should we do? Amir al-Mu'minin said, next day, early morning, come with your head shaved, cut your hair, and take out your swords and put it on your shoulder as a sign of war. And imagine 8 people coming to the streets of Medina, their heads shaved, and they have their swords out on their shoulders. It was a sign of war. If you come, we'll go together. We'll kill them all, and I'll take back my position. Next day, Ya Ali, if you want to understand how madloom and oppressed was Amir al-Mu'minin, listen to this hadith. Next day, Salman, Miqdad, and Abu Dhar, they came. Early morning. With their heads shaved and their swords out. Ammar came also in the morning. Another hadith says that Ammar came late. He did not come early. But he came, he had half of his head shaved. And he had his sword half way out, not all the way. And the others did not even show up. The other four did not even show up. Amir al-Mu'minin looked at Ammar and said, put it back and leave it. What is this? Ammar said, I was afraid. You know, sometimes you're afraid to say whether you're a Shia or not. He said, I am half Shia. So he had his sword halfway out. Amir al-Mu'minin said, what is this? You're trying to save your own life? You prefer your own life over me? Over the wilaya of Amir al-Mu'minin? وَنُرِيدُ أَن نَمُنَّ عَلَى الَّذِينَ اسْتُضْعِفُوا. Amir al-Mu'minin not only was oppressed amongst the enemies, by the enemies, but also amongst the close friends who were claiming to be his lovers. And Amir al-Mu'minin salawatullah alayhi said that, leave it, I will not lead you anymore. قال يا أمير المؤمنين خشيت. Ammar said, I was afraid. Amir al-Mu'minin said, put back your swords. And then he said, Wallah, if there were 7 people out of those 8 of you who came last night, if only 7 of you had come, I would have gone and fought against them. But what can I do? 3.5? 3.5. Ya Amir al-Mu'minin. And Imam Hassan said that I went through the same problem as my Imam, Amir al-Mu'minin. And also the other Imams. You know, the Imam of our time is also going through the same problem. The same problem of not having enough supporters. But you know the difference between Amir al-Mu'minin and Imam Mahdi Ajjal Farajah Sharif? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. If Amir al-Mu'minin was oppressed by his enemies and friends for 30 years, 30 years right after the Prophet, 24 years, time of Abu Bakr, Umar and Uthman, and then the rest. If Amir al-Mu'minin was oppressed for 30 years, the Imam of our time, al-Mahdi, he has been oppressed for more than 1,000 years. For more than 1,000 years. He does not have enough supporters. He does not have enough friends to welcome him to their houses and support him. Amir al-Mu'minin said about Imam al-Mahdi, صاحب هذا الأمر الشريد التريد الفريد الوحيد. He is displaced, he is homeless and expelled and lonely. No one wants him. Even amongst those who claim to be his lovers, there's a story of a person, his name was Sheikh Ali al-Hallawi in Hilla. There's a maqam Sahib al-Zaman. And this building goes back to a story that Sheikh Ali al-Halli, his house was there. He used to live in the city of Hilla, it's close to Najaf. And he was he loved Imam Mahdi very much, and he always, prayed to Imam Mahdi and said, Ya Sahib al-Zaman, why don't you come? We have thousands of supporters in Hilla. Dua Nudma, Alhamdulillah, we have thousands of people coming and crying for you. Everyone is begging for you to come. Why don't you come? I was always begging Imam alayhi salam, calling Imam Mahdi. One day, he goes out in the town, and as he's praying to Allah Ta'ala and calling Imam, he hears an Arab man from the back calling him. What do you want, Sheikh Ali? He says, the one who I'm calling, he knows what I want. And he says that, I know what you want. I'm your Imam. But you're wrong. In your town, there's only you and a butcher who loves me. But the rest, they just claim. We Shias, I'm talking about myself. They just claim that they love me. When it comes to the time that whether they should prefer their own life, their own materialistic life and dunya over Imam Mahdi, they will choose the other one. Imam said, I will prove it to you. Go back to your house and choose the most sincere people that you know in your town. And tell them to come to your house on Thursday night. And tell them that Imam Mahdi will come to my house and you can visit him. And before they come, take 2 goats up to the roof. Said fine. So he calls, out of 1,000 people, he chooses 40 people. He calls them. They all come to his house. They start praying, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Muhammad, Allahumma ajjal waliyaka al-faraj, da'a faraj, da'a kum. And then they see a big light coming to the house and goes to the roof. The sound comes from the roof calling the butcher, come upstairs. The butcher comes upstairs. Imam alayhi salam tells him to slaughter the first goat and let the blood run through the gutter down. And he does that. The people see blood coming down. They get scared. Allah Akbar. He killed the butcher. Imam has come. He has killed the first one of us. Then Imam alayhi salam calls Sheikh Ali al-Hilli. You come up. He comes up. And then Imam tells the butcher to kill the second goat. And he kills the second goat. And the blood again runs down the gutter. They say, Ya Allah, Imam Mahdi is killing every one of us. They all run away from the house. Imam tells him, this is the case. وَنُرِيدُ أَن نَمُنَّ عَلَى الَّذِينَ اسْتُضْعِفُوا فِي نَجْعَلَهُمْ أَئِمَّةً وَنَجْعَلَهُمُ الْوَارِثِينَ. Imam al-Mahdi Ajjala Farajah, he's been oppressed just like his grandfather Amir al-Mu'minin until today. Even by us, by not supporting him, by not defending him, by not being loyal to him and sincere. But Allah Ta'ala has promised him to stay and to live until one day, eventually, Quran says, وَنَجْعَلَهُمْ وَالْوَارِثِينَ. They are in the inheritors. They will inherit the land. They will inherit. If you are inherited something, you are the owner of that. If one of your relatives passed away and you inherited a house, that house is something that you own. Allah says, وَنَجْعَلَهُمُ الْوَارِثِينَ. They are warithin al-ard. They are the ones who will inherit the land and they will rule on this land. Inshallah ta'ala. Let us make this month of Ramadan a different month of Ramadan. A month of Ramadan that we calculate our amal, our actions. Are we really the supporters of Imam? Do we really love Imam al-Mahdi Ajjala al-Farajah? Or are we just saying it in our tongue? This month of Ramadan, inshallah, let us change. Let us become true followers and supporters of our beloved Imam al-Mahdi Ajjala ta'ala Farajah al-Sharif. ببركة الصلوات على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج. 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 وجعلنا من خير أنصاره وأشيائه وأتباعه والمستشهدين بين يداي. اللهم اقضي حوائجنا. اللهم اشف مرضانا. This is a person who's got into accident in Iraq. May Allah cure all of those who are sick in the hospitals, inshallah. Barak the salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
زهرة شيخ.
السلام عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة. السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك